Next guest tonight is Dr. David Shulkin. He's a former U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs under President Trump and an author of the book, It Shouldn't Be This Hard to Serve Your Country, Our Broken Government and the Plight of Veterans. Dr. Shulkin, thanks for joining us tonight.
Glad to be with you.
Now, your former department was the first in the federal government to mandate vaccinations among healthcare workers to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now, the New York Times is reporting today that vaccinations are up to 82% of frontline VA workers. That's up from 77% nearly 2 months ago when the mandate was announced. Was a mandate the right move? Is it far enough? Is it too far?
Well, I think it's absolutely the right move when you think about the primary mission that VA does is take care of veterans. And we all learned back when I went to medical school that you don't do harm. So if you're going to have people caring for our country's veterans, you don't want them having COVID and you don't want them spreading COVID. So I think that was a good move by the secretary. And frankly, I was proud of the department when they did that.
So President Biden yesterday unveiled his 6-pronged COVID-19 action plan, which includes vaccine rollout, giving Americans booster shots, ramping up tests and masking, etc. But it also includes requirements that all companies with 100-plus employees are vaccinated or tested weekly. But of course, a test is just a simple moment in time, whereas a vaccine is thought to give longer-term protection. Can vaccinated employees feel safe around unvaccinated employees, even if they're being tested weekly?
Well, I think even when you do get vaccinated, testing still is going to be an important part of the strategy of ending this pandemic and protecting other people that you're around in the workforce. And so what you saw with President Biden's announcement yesterday, I think was really a frustration of how long this pandemic has gone on and the inability to stop the spread of this virus. This is really the entire kitchen sink. This was people sitting around a room and saying, let's put everything that we think is going to make a difference, what may impact the spread of this infection. Let's put it all into this and let's go out with it now rather than wait any longer.
And even today, Biden more or less brushed aside criticism of his administration's vaccine mandates, telling a reporter earlier that Republicans, quote, have at it, challenging his vaccine mandates in court. Now, vaccines have been mandated in the past for polio, smallpox, hepatitis, etc. We know the Pfizer vaccine's fully approved, like so many other immunizations. But when will the partisan backlash tamp down? Is that over time? Does it take time? What if we don't have the time?
Well, I don't think this partisan backlash and the political division in this country is going away anytime soon. So I don't expect that. I think that what you've seen in the Biden administration is an understanding that the primary responsibility of government is to protect its citizens. And we've had over 640,000 Americans die, and now, well over 100,000 in hospitals right now. So we're not doing a great job of protecting our citizens. And you're seeing an effort to try to get everything that we can get done to end this pandemic once and for all so people can get back to the lives they want. I'm really sorry that this turned into a political issue because, frankly, it never should have. And I think that we need to own the responsibility of the political messaging that started this political division in the first place.
Now, just a slight pivot away from COVID here. In your book, you talk about the fight to save veteran health care from partisan politics. Now, there's a lot of money on the line for veterans hospitals in Democrats' $3.5 trillion human infrastructure plan. That's, of course, according to documents released by Budget Committee Chairman Senator Bernie Sanders. He says it could be up to $18 billion in funding. Now, Republicans in Congress are pretty well united in their opposition to the plan. But do you personally think this money will make an impact? And, I mean, more broadly, what needs to be upgraded?
Well, first of all, I am seeing some common support for our veterans, that this is really not a Democratic or a Republican issue. And I think that people work hard to keep that political divide away from VA issues. We saw some evidence of that when I was secretary, and frankly, I called that out. But in this case, I think you're seeing a real commitment to helping our veterans. Clearly, the VA has been underfunded when it comes to capital projects. Its buildings are old, its tools and technologies need to be updated, and I think that this budget is going to allow VA to make up some of that gap. So I think that's important. But, there should not be any political wins in this. This is a common issue for all Americans to support our veterans.
Now, before I let you go, Mr. Secretary, I want to pivot to one more topic, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. A bipartisan group of 34 senators sent a letter to the current VA secretary calling on the department to connect struggling Afghanistan vets to mental health services. In addition to mental health outreach, what else do you think can be done to help veterans struggling to see the U.S. leave the country where thousands of their fellow service members lost their lives in the line of duty?
Well, let's be clear. This has been a devastating blow for many American veterans. I'm the chairman of the board of the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, and we've heard from our members all over the country about how this is just devastating for them after they've given so many of their fellow brothers and sisters have lost their lives. They've sacrificed themselves. So we really do have an obligation to be there for them now. I do think that the VA is trying to step up to reach out, but I do think that there's more that can be done. And clearly the attention to mental health issues, clearly a recognition that veterans are suffering and that they need to hear from the American public that they're supported in this. We can't have a repeat of what we saw in Vietnam, where our veterans were left alone and ostracized. And fortunately, I think the American people are behind our veterans, will continue to stand behind them, and hopefully we will get through this very, very tough time.
But just specifically, what more could be done?
What more could be done, I think, is to show that we're not leaving anybody behind. We should be making every effort that we can to reach out to the allies that helped us. When you've been in country like our veterans have, they realize that they relied upon the support of their Afghan fellow people fighting the conflict with them, and they couldn't do it without them. And watching the U.S. abandon so many people, I think, has been very, very challenging. I also think that we need to give people the time to be able to reflect and to accept what was really a very rapid withdrawal and a very rapid surrender of the Afghan government. So this should not be a surprise, the shock and the impact this is having on those who have served.
Dr. David Shulkin, former VA secretary and author of It Shouldn't Be This Hard to Serve Your Country, Our Broken Government and the Plight of Veterans. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.